All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our online poetry session of Sparks in the Dark. We are joined by three poets today. We have Karren Alenier with us. We have Margot Berdeveshki, and we
Berdashevsky.
have, and Andrea Carter-Brown. So thank you, all three of you, for being here with us today. We're excited to hear some poetry and learn a little bit from you all. All right.
Did you want to read any of the bios, or maybe you know what? I could just post the bios in the chat.
I could go through, some of them are a bit long. You guys are all very accomplished. You have some very long biographies. If you want, I could do a little bit from each
Yeah,
to
just do a
introduce
little bit from
you all.
each.
Sure. All right. So Karren Alenier is an editor from The Belly. Poets Respond to Gertrude Stein's Tender Buttons, and author of 8 poetry collections, including How We Hold On. She writes a monthly column for Scene 4 magazine called The Stein Road to Opera Dome. And Gertrude Stein Invents a Jump Early On is her jazz opera with Bill Banfield. And then Margot was born in New York City. She often lives and writes in Paris. Her latest collection is Neil Said the Night, from Sundress Publications. It is Still Beautiful to Hear the Heartbeat is a forthcoming book from Salmon Poetry. And then Andrea is a poet and editor. She's the author of 3 previous poetry collections, The Disheveled Bed, and 2 chapbooks, Brook and Rainbow, and Domestic Karma. Her current manuscript, American Fracture, was chosen by Jane Hirschfield for the 2018 Rochelle Ratner Memorial Award from Marsh Hawk Press. So thank you, all 3 of you, for joining us here today.
Yep. Rachel, thanks, and thanks to the library for hosting. So, Karren, I am turning it over to the crew, you and the crew.
Okay. Well, thank you, dear audience, for attending this reading. We have a lot of illustrious guests in our audience, and I'm very pleased to see you all here. This reading will feature From the Belly, Poets Respond to Gertrude Stein's Tender Buttons. Since my philosophy is don't go into the Steinian woods alone, I invited 2 special responding poets of this collection, Margot Berdashevsky, an American poet who lives in Paris, the city of light, and Andrea Carter-Brown, an American poet living in Los Angeles, the city of angels, who has steeped herself in certain aspects of France's history. This reading is in tribute to Gertrude Stein, who lived and wrote in Paris most of her adult life. So we will begin the reading with poems that establish our French connection, and each of us will begin with a soundbite of biography, and then we will read our poem. So I'm Karren Alenier, and I'm the first poet published by the Word Works in 1975. And in 2023, I began as editor of this From the Belly, Poets Respond to Gertrude Stein's Tender Buttons, Volume 1, which is Objects. My signature poem is Leo on Seesaw, and it appears in my opera Gertrude Stein Invents a Jump Early On. Leo on Seesaw for the pleasure of Gertrude Stein. Little Buddha, little brooder, kleiner brooder, tiny brother, bitty bother, sitting baldly in the butter, in the batter, shaking philosophic digits in the kitchen, for the Küchen has been eaten by the kitten. Wearing mittens in the winter, hiding splinters in his fingers, finding spiders in the cracks of the plaster. So we left 20 ha 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 in metered breathing, something close to the day he was born. Recently, I was asked to translate one of my poems into French for Grace Cavaleri's Voice as Bridge annual program, which took place last summer at the Washington, D.C. Arts Club. And by the way, Grace is here in our audience. Hi, Grace. So glad you're here. Anyway, so this is Leo on Seesaw in French. This is what I would call a new piece of writing because I really didn't I didn't translate word for word. It gets the spirit of it. Léo sur la balançoire pour le plaisir de Gertrude Stein. Petite Bouddha, enfant Bouddha, kleiner Bruder, toute grande blague, peu de peine, assis chauve, dans le beurre, dans le pâte, secouant ses pouces philosophiques dans la cuisine parce que le kuchen a été mangé par le chaton, portant des gants en printemps, cachant des écharpes dans ses droites, trouvant des frêlons dans les fissures du plâtre. Alors, nous avons ri 21, ha ha, ha ha, en respiration mesurée, quelque chose de proche de la journée. Il est né. Take it away, Margot.
Okay, I'm Margot Berdyshevsky. I'm author of 5 poetry books. I'm a visual artist as well. My most recent book is Neil Said the Night from Sundress Press. Before that, Before the Drought from Glass Lyre Press. Before that, 2 books from, where are those books from, Karren?
They're Meadow, something
Press
Meadow.
in New York. Let's start with the poetry instead of the biographies. My French Connection poem is the one I'm about to read to you. Its title is Blason pour le corps. A blason, as you may know, is a song of praise, and pour le corps is for the body. And it begins with an epigraph by Verlaine. Gentle, the sound of the rain. Clitoris, belly, nape, taste bud, body, beloved bully, how surprisingly you strut, how unexpectedly you age, how night rides the in and the out of you, sen of you, dough of you. Who raped the silk in you? Don't answer. Blood's hummingbird under your ribs. Body monster ravenous now that the hound's heartbeat outrunning my greed. Body inside, thin ibis flaming, mirror bitch brayer, do I love you or not? Body, my blessing, my birthday bleed, body, my deceiver, body, my taunt, my strutter, my ogre, my mirror bitch brayer, we're as opened as we'll ever be. Listen, listen, Verlaine's new rain, Paris chérie, kiss humping bridges. Now you carry this burned body to a violining dawn rise in front of Saint-Gervais' bells. Now you monologue to the sex-legged revenant, home from her begging, home from the dead. Now you mourn with the massacred and their white-eyed children. But courtyards, cathedrals, doorways make room today for the corner-pissing mendicant. She needs as much cleanliness as the shutters opening. Kneeling, great slipping, she needs covers. You have given me cake, Paris, given me mothers.
What can you heard?
Given me filthy poems, barely raised. Somebody needs to turn off their bloody microphone. She needs as much cleanliness as the shutters opening, kneeling great slipping. She needs covers. You have given me cake, Paris, given me mothers, given me filthy poems barely brave enough to be written, but I have. Will you give her a morning rise whistle and promise her one last lover, one last day too, before this year bulges its hips into next year and I lose you again, Paris, darling. We are both hungry, both stained by your autumn hope. And if you don't, there are flames who will. Thank you.
And before Andrea starts, thank you, Margot. Could everybody turn off their microphones? Make sure that that happens. We should have said that at the beginning. Take it away, Andrea.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you for your poem, which I love, and for yours, Margot. I'm thrilled to read with both of you in this celebration of Karen's wonderful anthology. I'm Andrea Carter Brown. My most recent collection, September 12th, was published for the 20th anniversary of 9/11 and went on to win the silver medal from the Independent Publishers Association. I fell in love with all things French in fourth grade when my school had an experimental program and my teacher, Miss Lenore Nelkin, I want to say her name, Miss Lenore Nelkin, taught our class. And that was the beginning of it for me. The poem that I'm going to read for my French connection is the title poem of one of my collections, The Disheveled Bed, which was translated and performed in Southwest France. The performance, I read it in French, and then it was performed and sung by a French singer-songwriter, Marie Segal, who's based in Toulouse. So I'm going to read it first in English. The Disheveled Bed. The birds are back. I like to think the first two, singing in the pines 4 years ago, 5 floors below, mated, gave birth, migrated, and came back with their young, who also bred, and whose descendants and theirs now pair up and nest. A new generation every year we've lived here, one extended and extending family for the one denied us. The random yet orderly rise and fall of their songs, rising as high as our high-rise home, as you brush out my hair and we straighten together the disheveled bed. Le lit désordonné. Les oiseaux sont de retour. J'aime penser que les 2 premiers chantant dans les pins 4 ans auparavant, 5 étages plus bas, s'accoupler, donner naissance, migrer et revenaient avec leurs jeunes qui s'accouplaient à leur tour chaque année jusqu'à aujourd'hui, où une nouvelle génération se retrouve et se niche là où nous habitons. Une famille qui s'agrandit et qui s'élargit à la place de laquelle qu'on nous a privés. L'ordre sans ordre de leurs chansons s'élevant jusqu'à notre appartement pendant que tu me brosses les cheveux et nous faisons ensemble le lit désordonné. Merci.
Thank you so much, Andrea. We are really showing our stripes here, I think. It's very interesting to hear two languages on this particular program. The next round features poems responding to from the belly objects. And this is what the book looks like. And this is a 3-book project, and it's based on the 3 sections of Tender Buttons: objects, which is this one, food, and rooms. And volume 1 has art on the cover by Grace Cavallari, who I said was in the audience, and I thank her for her wonderful jubilant painting. We're going to follow Stein's order of sub-poem presentation. So, and additionally, each of the 3 poets will take turns reading Stein's Tender Button poem for the other, which will help to distinguish Stein's voice from our responding poet. So, and to conclude the individual readings, I've asked the poets to say something about her process in writing these response poems, so you'll get a sense of what's going on. Stein is a very complicated writer because she does lots of things that confuse, but even so, she uses very simple words. And she does a lot of repetition, as you well know, probably, from rose is a rose is a rose. So we're going to start with a blue coat, and I've asked Margot to read A Blue Coat.
A Blue Coat by Gertrude Stein. A blue coat is guided away, guided and guided away. That is the particular color that is used for that length, and not any width, not even more than a shadow.
Thank you, Margot. And here's my blue coat. A blue coat. Whether gendarme, one arm extended, ended by white glove, uniform, a length of sky in eye, cerulean coast, côte d'azur, sea and land, fractal lines into infinity, a dark closet for custom cloaks. Nope, petite bleu, blown through tubes, pneumatique, freaky, jokey, pornography, covers all blue, singing, ah, bay, say. Now, regarding my process, in France, as in the United States, the police were dressed in blue, or at least blue coats. The French initially had their gendarmes dressed in red pants with blue coats. Blue is an exceptionally evocative color during Stein's life in France. Her friend Pablo Picasso, who invited her to visit him on the Côte d'Azur, had his blue period, and there was the intra-city telegram, Le Petit Bleu, which was sent through pneumatic tubes in Paris. Now, Andrea Carter Brown has responded to a paper. So here is a paper by Gertrude Stein. A courteous occasion makes a paper show no such occasion, and this makes readiness and eyesight and likeness and a stool.
Okay, thank you, Karren. There's only one thing I want to mention to you before I read this poem. In Stein's, the word Stein in German means stone, if you don't know that already. Rock, paper, scissors. Carte d'identité stolen in a Warren under Grand Central. 6 months permission left. Rolled up certificate in a car, trunk from Stein's time, in a language, font, typeface, hard to read, where she learns she is not who she thought she, they, he was. The small white card that tells the world X received 2 shots at Dodger Stadium. Long lines snaking. No hot dogs. Mrs. Blair's brownies. In Palmer script, shorthand for butter. Translated at the margin, tempting to leave them too long in. A leap of faith to know they will be tender when barely set. In a trolley conductor's home after the Spanish flu, poor man's cake, with newfangled vegetable shortening, not lard, molasses, muscat, almost impossible to find, dear glacé cherries, ringing the diminutive ring. Her writing, like mine, the knob on an index finger from gripping a pen, the knuckle at the base swollen like hers. How many pages pens ran dry in how many languages? Paper gives meaning, records, accompanies. 24 certified death certificates. The end, paper bookends. Birth, fracture, ketubah, marriage. The deed to the family plot, filled in over 100 years, waiting. 2 empty spaces left. The last words, a long line cut, another matching stone with matching square periods instead of commas, raised in granite, stones at their heads, rock, paper, scissors, Stein, papier, ciseaux, scissors, rock, paper. When Karren asked us to contribute to this anthology, she asked us to approach it in a spirit of play. And if I hadn't been able to do it, I was so intimidated by Stein, I don't think I would have been able to write anything. Then she assigned us the sections of Tender Buttons. And I was both surprised to be given a paper, but suddenly all these other associations swirling around in my head about another collection that I was working on came into focus. And to my surprise, playing with those associations led to this poem. And I thank you, Karren, for making that possible.
I guess I'm supposed to say this first.
No.
No, you are.
Hold on, Andrea.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're next to read a sound, which is what Margot is responding to.
Okay, that's what I
Okay.
thought.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. So, Karren, what page is it on?
Uh,
You have it handy?
Okay.
106.
Thank you, Margot. Fortunately, they're all short, and I have read it. So, wow, a sound. Gertrude Stein. Elephant beaten with candy and little pops, and chews all bolts, and reckless, reckless rats. This is this.
And this is the poem that came out of it. Sound of a song for the doodah day. It begins with an epigraph by François Duc de la Rochefoucauld. Hypocrisy is a tribute that vice pays to virtue. Gods, some small, you weary me. How you goose step clouds and waves and wars strutting. How your reckless rats knife virtue, no matter her shining, no matter the thises, no matter the that's. How your elephantine spites and violent lies beat truths with their tongues and truths with their bile, till souls spit back, not candy, but blood, popping, but they're very quiet deaths. Pied Piper for a day in the getaway woods where the muses and devils bound. Just wait till the piñati breaks. Wait till the seas rise. Wait till the globe splits in more than two, or infants howl, or heavens reek. Wait, just wait. Whisper, world in a cell of sand. You'll be all right, just hold on to your flesh. Hiss, you'll be all right, just watch for the ice slopes falling. Wait for hypocrisy's drowning. Wait for the sun to burn. There are other things that kill. Trill, world is a world is a world, believe in bolts and brass and towers chewed by rats. A piper pied in satin, who chants, follow me, do, to horizon's terminus, zippity doodah, believe all the darling day, shout, follow with me, zippity, follow me, doodah, follow me, to foul the fray. Steps be tender, steps be quick, steps be buttoned or un, but beware. These our darling coming to term days, these our darkling days.
Nice. Margot, you're muted.
No, I'm not.
Margot,
I
would
mean,
you like to
Karen.
say, yeah, Margot, would you like to say a few words about the poem, how it came
Ah,
out?
well, Karren asked and I obeyed. Karren and I have known for each other for a very, very long time, where we walked the streets of old Prague and decided that we would take up challenges. And so this poem came as a challenge. And what I found as I began to look at the words of Gertrude Stein's initiating poem was that it spoke to me about the very world that I'm standing and sleeping and walking in. And I couldn't avoid that. And so the poem has a dark tenor to it, perhaps darker than her elephants, but it's what came out.
I think it's actually appropriate. And I wondered if you have some things that are in italics after the world in a cell of sand, and I wondered if they came from the newspaper or where these quotes
No,
came
no,
from.
it was my sense of the sing-song and the nursery kind of voice that is also part of Stein's lexico. So,
Okay.
no, it was just what was in my head.
Okay. Yeah, I found it was really quite interesting that way. I think, you know, and also I was going to say about Andrea's poem that, you know, the echoes of other works coming in is very Steinian, because Stein does a lot of that. She takes from other pieces of literature and folds that in. So, yes, I mean, I think what happens is when these readings are done from the book and we get people to talk about the process, we learn a lot of interesting things. So there's
Who's
somebody has
talking?
can somebody turn off their microphone? Okay. Okay. John, before we go any further, I'm just going to ask you if you have any particular questions that you would like to address before we move on.
I don't know. I should go see the movie, I think. I don't know. I'm only getting the what do you call it? The trailer. I'm only getting the trailer. I should go see the real no, I'm joking. I like a lot of humor. No, I think what maybe would be nice for 5 minutes, if anybody in the audience had a question or two or a comment, because part of it is when we get down to the bottom of the hour, we really have to end on time. So if we could maybe do a little Q&A right now, and or comments, and so anybody want to on Mike? I know Kathy, you always have if you want to lead it off.
Yeah, I can start. I just want to say how much I enjoy the play that's here. In the last poem, Andrea, so many things that remind me of childhood songs and that sort of thing. And it's fascinating to me how you bring so many of those together. I think all of the poems bring a lot of things together, but I also wondered what brought the three of you together and how that initial meeting or collaboration has influenced you over the years.
Well, I'll speak a little bit to this, because Margot actually did speak to how we came together, which was in
Prague.
Prague. That's where we were hanging out, writing, and it was quite a remarkable couple of weeks. In terms of Andrea and I coming together, we have a long history, but in the more, well, it's not that recent, but we also have done poetry things together, and we have been working together with the WordWorks also, but we have a lot going on. But Margot, do you want to say anything? Andrea, do you want to say anything?
Only that I'm always fascinated that our early connection has lasted for 25, 30 years. And here we are doing something brand new. I mean, there we were by the boards of the Vlatva River in old Prague, hearing the ding dong of the ancient clock and thinking that it had poetry to talk to us about. And here we are hearing Gertrude. You've always been a Gertrude lover. That I remember from back when. But I'm fascinated that the relationships that we build as poets are things that carry us through and challenge us to do something that we hadn't chanced or imagined doing until here it is.
And I might continue in that vein. Karren, I would say that your love of things French is the subterranean current under all our various activities together, literary and other, over the years. And this project gave me a chance to contribute to that. And it was fun. So writing doesn't come easy to me. And this is probably the easiest poem I ever wrote.
Amazing. I mean, I just firmly believe, in the spontaneity that has occurred in this volume. It's just remarkable in that way. So anyway, does anybody have a question out there in the audience? They would like to make a comment, have something to say. We actually have some other people in the audience who are in this collection, like Henry Crawford is in this collection. Let me see, who else do we have out there who's in this collection? Because we have some people who are also in other volumes, but they haven't been yet published.
Margie Ross.
Yes, Margie Ross. We have Margie Ross, who was also in this volume. Margie, do you want to say something? She's not unmiking herself. And we have Hal Greenwald also, who is in this volume. And Grace Cavallari.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah. So anyway, John, any other thoughts?
No, I think part of it, this is, for those who are listening in today, we usually have more of a give and take between me and the poet. We usually go one-on-one. So Karren suggested, I don't know if we want to call this the trilogy or, a very light opera. I love it. No, because part of it is, it's very thoughtful and well prepared. So I really appreciate when we can do something different than what we do traditionally. So I want to thank you for that. No, I don't really have any comments. I'm just, I feel like I'm at a recital and I'm just enjoying the music.
Yes, and that's important to acknowledge the musicality of what Stein does, and it has invited the others to play with that music. And I just saw that there was a question from Majda Gama, who was also in a later volume, who wanted to know why Stein. And I guess that question was addressed to me.
Yeah.
And I started reading Stein back in the late 70s. And I enjoyed her autobiography of Alice B. Toklas so much. I thought, oh, everybody should have an Alice B. Toklas, because you need a helpmate who really helps you make your writing happen, and to get through all of the stuff that we have. And so I started with poems that were set on the playground. And that's, Margot knew those poems from the first collection, big collection that I did, which was Looking for Divine Transportation. And, Stein for me was somebody who, against all the odds, persisted. She was fighting the critics at every step of the way. And my opera is her fighting the critics. Her brother, for example, her American audience who didn't understand what she was doing. And then finally, she was up against the ultimate critics of the Nazis as she was hiding in plain sight in southern France during World War II. So, so fighting against the critics was always a theme that I admired so much about Gertrude Stein. So, let's go with our third round of poems. And in this round, we'll continue the themes of Gertrude Stein, French Connection, Sparks in the Dark. And my poem is another response poem in From the Belly, and this anthology #1, and Stein's text in this particular case is very short. Not to mention the fact that this is the poem that gave the anthology its name. So let me just describe to you let me give you this three-word poem with a 3-word title. So here's the title: Peeled Pencil Choke. This is by Gertrude Stein. And here's the poem: Rub Her Coke. And here's my response poem. It's called From the Belly, a Dialectic. And it has a epigraph from Stein: I can lean upon a pencil. A pencil is my crutch. Do you get the point? The sharpness dulls with every thrust. I prefer a slender nib, dipped intensely in what is dark, in what is indelible. The American lead, so soft, hardly immortality. The pencil, real, popular. #2, fill in the box to count. I do, we do, your vote, my preference, a bateau en flamme, floating on the Seine. Mon mari et moi, hungry, his hair afire, by candlelight, at midnight, in moonlight. Don't drink the ink, rather let it flow. So now I'm going to comment on this poem because this poem was actually written in Paris at the time that Margot Berdyshevsky was having a birthday party, which she invited my late husband Jim and I to attend. So you have a little scene there where you see us in the cafe on the 2nd floor overlooking the Seine, and Jim is leaning in. We have candlelight and he's nearly burning his hair. Another thing to know is that Gertrude Stein interconnected her works. So I was reading at the time Lifting Belly, which is a very sexual long poem. And so this particular sub-poem, Peeled Pencil Choke, from Tender Buttons, seemed to me, it called out to Lifting Belly. So this is why this poem came about, and it's very interconnected with Stein. And I really appreciate that, because I think that we never want to give up our children, our literary children, so we acknowledge them in various ways if we are loving parents of our work. So, all right, now I'm turning this over now to Margot, who is going to present a poem of her choice, which she has the choice of how she connects to the rest of this work. So Margot, take it away.
Okay. Well, I had to choose this one. It's called Daily Bread. My mama fell from her chair, dead, when the blood night called her in. Marie tried to recite Our Father when she fell, couldn't find those words in English, but her childhood French hid there somewhere. She grasped until the mind caught the blackbird's wing, and she prayed again, daily bread, notre pain quotidien. My new neighbor knocks at morning's latch, lonely. Pardon, my ex is in hospital. She fell, blood to the brain. She's lost all her words. And je voudrais coucher avec vous. And he wishes to come to my bed. all his darting tongue truth soars like blackbirds before I pour the second brew, where the purple irises lean in, where the blackbirds land hungry. And I am a woman in a single bed, no war in me, desire rising, in a precipice town where a hermit had hid. Pilgrims climbed step after step up its cliff of stairs, on their knees, penitents' chained locks, broken open, a candle-blackened virgin's bell ahead, rung by no rope at all for miracles. I climb in imitation for a God who hides to stop all daily grief. Embrace me all the way down.
Yeah.
I am going to squawk at whoever keeps turning their mic off or on. I'm really going to squawk. You heard me. That's all I can say.
Thank you, Margot. I'm sorry for the interruption. But hopefully people got the wonderful gist of your music. And now I'd like to invite Andrea to have her 3 minutes, and let's see what she's going to deliver to us.
Thank you, Karen. The first poem I'm going to read was written after the attack on the Bataclan Club, when France was very much on my mind. It's called Au Chanticleer. O Chanticleer, who twirls in the wind above clock towers, the national symbol, not a bird of prey, but a domestic fowl, the source of eggs that make delicious omelette au fin herbe. Oh, Louis XVI, with your wife whose wigs hosted birds, in sending Lafayette to help a colonial revolt destroy a hated rival, could you not see ahead how liberté, égalité, fraternité would come home to roost and cost you your head? The Ancien Regime guillotined out of existence by the terror. Shoulder to shoulder, we stand with our first allies, the president promises, echoing other heads of state. But hindsight, foresight, what to do against fanatics who would turn back the clock, not a couple hundred years, but 1,000, the punishment for a woman talking to a man outside her family, the loss of her head. For a blasphemer, his tongue. A survivor of le 11/9, as 9/11 is known in France, writes these lines the morning after November 13th. Le 13/11, as this day will no doubt become known, no other information needed. In solidarity, I put on a royal blue shirt, tie a white and red bandana jauntily around my throat, and make myself go out to sign yet another condolence book. So that poem was part of what I've been working on. Poems that swirl around France, And I'm going to read another one. The Seine divides Paris. And there are many rivers that drain France. I like to write about rivers. The river that prompted this poem is the Garonne in southwest France, which drains the Pyrenees and empties into the Atlantic, as does the Seine. Dowry. 1. Across the river and below the village steeple, a grove of poplars, bark dappled silver under a dark green canopy. 20 years ago, when his first child was born, a French farmer laid out a field 30 saplings wide by 30 rows deep for making the crates to store the pruneau d'Agen, for which this region is famous. When the daughter marries, he will give the grove to her husband. The lumber will buy their first home, the field ready to replant when a child arrives. Almost ready to harvest, ramrod straight trunks drink down the water table efficiently, converting water to wood with speed. 2. All along the Garonne are poplar groves, a shaved field planted with saplings in plastic tubes, young trees, mature ones ready to fell, stumps. These poplars stand guard, seasoned regiments to protect the town from floods. In a park across the street, enclosed by a wrought iron fence, a white obelisk lists the names of villagers who died in the Great War. 10 men out of 300 living nearby. Their descendants still here, a century later. To the children of Espelay who died, red begonias spilling at their feet. 3. In the space below the list, 2 more names, smaller, crudely incised under 1939 to 45. The first war being the war to end all wars, the second lost in weeks. To this day, that debacle complicates relations between neighbors, within families, collaborators or resistance. 4 generations of poplars have come and gone since that slaughter, the graceful trees cultivated in service to the deep red plums that dried stay moist, their intense sweetness tempered by a tart aftertaste that lingers, their dowry. Thanks.
Thank you, Andrea. I just thought I'd throw one more idea out here, and if anybody has any comments to say, we might have a minute for it. But consider that Tender Buttons is a sacred work, that this is the covenant of Gertrude with Alice in their marriage. And consider reading this work as a Talmudic group would read it. So they would look for things like repetition where things are twice told, missing information. They would look for keywords repeated 3, 7, or 10 times in a sort of magic numerical gematria. Consider ambiguity, contradiction, anagrams, echoes from story to story, juxtaposition, symmetry, gaming, all kinds of things going on in Gertrude Stein, and not all necessarily at the same time. but there are different ways to approach Stein. So what I'm trying to say to you is that you can have fun with tender buttons. And the way this book was constructed, which was thanks to Nancy White, was that it's a workbook. So you can write in the book and make your own responses. And that's what we hope to do and accomplish with the ensuing volumes, although they have very different tones to them. So the music is different from the objects to the food to the rooms. So we have time maybe for one 1 minute comment or a question, and that's it.
Karen, if you have time, I didn't realize that I was so changed on the last poem. I have a short poem and I would be happy to share it.
Okay, very good. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Here is my body, invisible on our lake, our dreamscape, the old blue heron lands. Beak of my hunger, beak of her hunger, beak of our mothering, mother me, I say. I'm her body of surrender waiting. I'm her body of hunger waiting, her body of danger waiting under the 5 million starfall night. Mother, I cry, you promised kinder dreams. You promised sleep. Be kind, you said, before you surrendered, before you climbed the starfall. This night won't last, you said. I'm the heron, I'm the lake at peace. Our vine leads to you, you said. Your body of surrender waiting. I whisper the blue heron will feed us. Blue dawn will delete us. Peace, our bodies will sleep. Our danger will sleep. I will love you, you said. That was my promise before. Our lake waits. Don't cry, I said. Here is my body, I said. Sleep. The hungry beaks will feed, even sparrows, winged ones. Our old promise is kept this night, this dangerous, last, mothering us night.
Thank you, Margot, and thank you, Andrea, and thank you to the Stockbridge Library and John Gillespie for a wonderful occasion, and thank you to this wonderful audience. I hope that you will tune into Gertrude Stein and learn something new.
Karen, thank you, Andrea and Margot. And this is our biggest audience of the year at lunchtime. So, no, very, very interesting. And I appreciate your, just your enthusiasm and depth with Gertrude Stein. I'm kind of waiting for her to come on stage here or unmute herself.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she
that'd be
might.
good. That'd be
Tell her
good.
to
Yeah, when
turn her
Andrea said this, I really don't
microphone
think
on
she
and
got it
off.
right. Yeah. Listen, it's 1:30. We need to sign off. So I want to thank everyone for coming. And boy, what a fantastic hour, Karren, Margot, and Andrea. And thank you, Karren, for orchestrating this endeavor. Very nice. Okay, everyone, we're going to sign off. I can tell Rachel.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Margot. Thank you, Andrea.
Thank both of you. I really enjoyed hearing your work. Margot, your apartment reminds me of the apartment I had in the 16th when I did my master's there. I'm just feeling such a
This is not the 16th, not quite as she, but yeah.
well, this was the studio, and I was just lucky to get it. What can I say?
I hear you.
Anyway, but it has that corner looks like that cut off corner and the window to the side of it and the molding under the ceiling, very French. Makes me hungry.
Well, come on back and the wine will be open.
Oh, what a treat. You may see me sooner than you think.
Okay.
Anyway, I'll be in touch. So, and
Okay,
Karen,
please
just a
hold.
splendid program. I can't believe how much work you put into it, but it really, for me, it really gelled.
Thank you. And I apologize, you know, it's the, you know, not everybody has the Cafe Muse touch to programming, because we don't allow people to come in with their mics unmuted. And the Stockbridge people do, because they want the participation. And they, you know, it's a lot of trouble what happens when that, you know, they're unmuted. So
I
anyway.
apologize if I was a bitch about it, but it just really irks me.
Yeah, I got that. But anyway, I think we got through. I think your poetry came across in very wonderful ways, and I think that we'll see what the video is like. So anyway, Stephanie, thank you for coming. Nancy Bramer, thank you for coming. Donna Lee, Fifield, merci, mon ami, très cher. And you
Thank
know,
you, Margaret Ann. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, all the other friends who are maybe still there or gone. I was happy to have you be part of this. So,
yeah, I thought, you know, well, I thought maybe we wouldn't have much of an audience, but we did very well. We had a wonderful audience. So
okay.
thank you very much.
Take care to all of you.
Yes,
And
you,
Okay.
stay
Marco.
safe. Stay safe. These are such days.
Yes,
A
exactly.
bientôt.
A bientôt. A bientôt.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.